College football represents a massive piece of economic pie for the NCAA, individual colleges, and associated stakeholders. According to data collected from USA Today and the U.S. Department of Education, the 231 NCAA Division I schools with data available generated a total of $9.15 billion in revenue during the 2015 fiscal year. Add to that the untold billions in revenues generated in travel, food, hotels, tailgating, the list goes on and on. However large these economic gains, they do not come without potentially high costs, particularly for the players. Not only are they subject to obvious risks such as broken bones, pulled muscles, and torn ligaments, they are also subject to less obvious injuries such as the short-term concussion and the long-term disease of chronic traumatic encephalopathy that has been in the news so much recently. Given these risks, should we as a society allow this exchange to occur? My name is Patrick, and with me today are Chris and Pete.
Hi everyone, this is Chris. We are a group of MBA students at the University of Utah and are currently studying business ethics. Today, we will be discussing the ethical implications and risks of college football. In discussing and debating this topic amongst ourselves, we found strong arguments for both sides of the issue. We split our group into two teams, one taking each side of the argument. Our classmates wrote a paper on why the situation is unethical, and we were taking the other side of the argument. As such, we will be arguing for why we believe that the exchange is ethical.
Is it right that the NCAA and associated universities be able to contract athletes to risk their health in exchange for potential gains for athletes, the NCAA, and ancillary industries? For clarity, we will consider all stakeholders without bias. Both of our groups agreed to this question would be the basis of our argument on either side of the issue. I think to truly get at the heart of this question, and before we can articulate why we believe it is ethical, we need to discuss who the stakeholders are and what those associated costs and benefits are to each. Then we will discuss the legal requirements, followed by a discussion about the ethical reasonings for our position. Here are a few short videos for you to watch.
I wake up around 5:10, 5:20 in the morning. We get there probably around 5:45-ish. On Mondays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, I got lifting at 6 o'clock in the morning, so do my treatment for a little bit, and then I start to do my workouts. The workout's probably 30 to 45 minutes. So from 6 to 6:45, we're working out, putting in that work to get bigger and stronger for the season. From 7 to 8:10, we have meetings. And then from 8:10 to 8:30, we got to get ready for practice. By 8:45, we're on the field ready to go. And from 8:45 to 11:30, we have practice. You know, brutal couple hours. After that, go to lunch from 11:45, 11:50. I got tutoring on Mondays and Thursdays from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. And I got class after that. So grab something to eat, go back to the stadium and watch film. Get out of that probably around 8:45. Then I got studying, sleep around 11, 11:30, and then wake up and start my whole day again at 5:45.
We're going to highlight just a few of the stakeholders and bullet out the supporting facts. The NCAA, an organization, in 2017 generated a $1.1 billion in revenue, TV and marketing fees, championship events, and investment income. Much of the NCAA's expenses are related to disbursements back to the schools for scholarships. In 2017, the NCAA dispersed $956 million back to schools, with $560 million of that going to Division I schools. Football accounts for a significant amount of those funds. The NCAA enjoys a sanctioned monopoly on college athletics.
The next stakeholders are universities and the colleges themselves. Schools receive revenue from appearances, marketing, and championships. Athletic success further begets success because it creates incentives for prospective players to come and play. Similarly, successful athletic programs also draw students to enroll at the universities. This can create a self-perpetuating cycle for athletes and students. Schools benefit from merchandise and clothing sales. Lastly, wealthy fans donate large sums of money to the school for various expansions of the program or to promote the school in general.
Hi everyone, Pete here. I'm going to address the student-athlete stakeholder. College football is where NFL's talent scouts come to recruit professional athletes. The players receive free education, housing, food, tuition, and athletic training. Universities and colleges provide roughly $2 billion in scholarships to Division I athletes. Student athletes get preferential selection in classes and are able to choose before other students. The schools provide nutritionists, massage therapists, doctors, trainers, and other medical personnel to ensure peak performance. Football players also travel with the team, sometimes to interesting locations, and they experience things that they may not have otherwise experienced. There's also a level of prestige and social status that comes with being a college football player, and many successful players are treated like rock stars.
The next one I'm going to be talking about is going to be the students themselves. Students at the best college football schools receive benefits by association. There is a certain pride and prestige that comes with attending a school with strong programs. It can create a sense of identity, value, and belonging. For the students who are not football fans, they do benefit from donations to the university because of the football programs. Football games give students an opportunity to benefit socially. Many events around athletic programs besides the actual games include dances or parties, etc. Non-athlete students can be employed to support athletic programs and sporting events.
Pete here again. Just want to talk about some ancillary industries. We're just going to do a small sampling. So some of these ancillary industries are apparel companies like Nike, Under Armour, and Adidas. They pay to be associated with certain teams and sponsor uniform and equipment expenses. Nike paid an estimated $175 million to sponsor the University of Michigan for 15 years. Travel industry benefits to games. People travel to games, and they often stop to eat before and after the games. The hotels experience a benefit, and other forms of tourism as well. The merchandise and food vendors also benefit, and advertisers take advantage of the increased traffic around the games to market their products. Online websites and blogs make a living out of speculating on college football.
Now we want to cover the cost to stakeholders. The cost for collegiate athletes can be amplified for individuals whose injuries cause them to lose their scholarships while incurring large medical costs after they are no longer supplied by the college's health professionals. There is no workman's comp like other professions. Athletes are on their own to pay for any long-term medical complications that arise from playing these sports.
Next, it is likely that these costs could be shared by current and future family members. As Patrick mentioned, once a student has finished school or is no longer on scholarship, he or she might be unable to pay for medical bills and will need to rely on his or her parents. Injuries can also have long-term effects that can make it difficult for former athletes to maintain steady employment and will therefore have an impact on his or her future family years after their college careers are over.
The legal requirements are very straightforward. All universities must comply with NCAA regulations and standards for safety. These safety measures pertain to equipment being used, what occurs during practices, and how the game is actually played. All members of the NCAA must be subject to independent medical care and autonomous authority of the primary athletics care providers.
In addition to that, we can look at the legal areas being covered. But one thing you can't plan for is the unexpected, such as a late hit or that hit that a player did not see coming. While these would likely not be illegal in the eyes of a judicial court, they are illegal by the rules of the game, and they can lead to other types of injuries that we mentioned before.
So given the benefits, costs, and legal requirements, let's ask the question again. Is it right that the NCAA and associated universities be able to contract athletes to risk their health in exchange for potential gains for athletes, the NCAA, and ancillary industries?
We feel that the ethical duty of personal virtues provides a strong argument against allowing athletes to risk their own health for the benefit of all the stakeholders that we highlighted before. Personal virtues dictate that we are honest, open, and truthful. Universities and coaches are not completely honest when they recruit athletes to play for their programs. While they cover all the potential benefits of being a student athlete, they likely will not mention the health risks and how coaches themselves, the universities, and apparel companies gain from athletic events. I can't imagine that Nick Saban tells recruits that he is the highest paid state employee and that his home is provided free of charge by the boosters of the football program.
So let's move forward now to the ethical proponent arguments for the NCAA and universities to carry out these operations this way. Each of us will talk about an ethical duty we feel is most important to this situation.
The first one is utilitarianism. Under utilitarianism, the greatest net benefit is provided if the NCAA and universities continue with this. Even with the risk exposed to the few, the net benefit is greatest. The economic costs are very small relative to the economic benefits of college football. While there are a few that are at risk of receiving harm, there are many whose livelihood depends on college football. As society exists now, the associative benefits of football outweigh the costs. While this could change over time, that's not currently the case. Players essentially trade short-term utility in the form of an opportunity to get into the NFL. They trade in education, physical care, and social benefits for potentially physical and mental damage. If college sports is unethical, one could fairly easily argue that any sport is unethical due to the risk of injury. Skateboarding, for example, could easily be considered unethical due to the high risk of injuries.
The next one we're going to be going over is contributed liberty. Contributed liberty argues that all parties or agents should not be hindered from choosing for themselves, as long as no asymmetry of information exists, and risks are known to participants. Those participants should be allowed to participate in college football. Ultimately, that free exchange of skills will decide the market. For example, if players believe the arrangement to be unfair, there would be far fewer players, and thus the NCAA and colleges would be forced to change their practices. As it stands, no one is forcing college athletes to be college athletes. They choose to be so.
The last ethical duty that we want to cover is self-interest. College football creates a massive economic benefit for untold numbers of people and provides an opportunity for players to move into the NFL. All parties involved are incentivized for their own self-interest for this activity to continue. NCAA football could be regarded as providing opportunities to athletes who might otherwise have no opportunity to attend school. While there is a risk of long-term injury, and education and other short-term benefits could outweigh those risks in the minds of the participants. As long as legal requirements for disclosure of risks are met, the risk of retaliation from harm parties is fairly low.
Now that we've summarized our arguments as to why we feel this is ethical, ultimately we want to leave this to the audience to decide. What's important to you?